Finding Your Match, True Tales of Funny Dating Experiences. Written by Leroy Vincent. Narrated by Dan Carroll. Chapter 1. Had pretty bad luck most of the time, but the one time I got a girl to talk to me, we really hit it off. She lived an hour away, and money was tight for both of us, so we talked for nearly 2 months before meeting up for a date. Had a nice dinner, and made out on the beach. Kept it up for a few months before we slowly drifted apart. Chapter 2. On our first date, we went to a disco dancing bar, and after a few drinks, we decided to dance. As the music was playing, we started to dance in slow motion, probably because of the stroboscope lights. It was so funny. Since then, every time we dance, we do it in slow motion for some minutes to random songs, and people just laugh at us, and we laugh a lot. And we can't say who starts to move in slow motion or who first had the idea. Chapter 3. My crazy, embarrassing, funny date night happened when a guy named Obafemi took me out to see a movie. The movie was The Jungle Book. Before the movie started, we went downstairs to play snooker, and I had bragged to him about being extremely good at snooker, and that I was going to finish him in the game. On reaching there, I held a stick and told him to play first. He did, and potted 2 balls. Then it got to my turn, and I found it so difficult that he started laughing and calling me professional. I finally had to admit that I had only played snooker on a virtual platform. I felt so stupid and embarrassed when he started making fun of the way I held the stick. After snooker, we went to a place where they sell ice cream, bought some with popcorn, and then proceeded to see the movie. The movie was so interesting that I cried from excitement. There was so much suspense, especially when Mowgli was captured by the Monkey King because the Monkey King wanted fire to intimidate the other animals. Finally, Mowgli had to cross over to the man zone to get it for the monkey. The movie was also touching, especially when the snake tried to swallow Mowgli. I was very happy at the end because the movie ended well. That is my crazy, embarrassing, funny date night. Chapter 4. Anyway, Rejection Guy told me within the first 20 minutes of meeting him that he had been fired from almost every job he'd ever had because his bosses hated him, his roommate hates him, and every girl he's ever dated was a witch and a bee. Yes, he actually used that term over dinner with a girl on a first date. Obviously, I wasn't exactly seeing rainbows and shooting stars, more like landfills and litter boxes. It was awful. Not to mention the fact that he ate only the center part of the bread slices the waiter brought us to share, leaving the rinds, which was just plain weird, and left a trail of crumbs across the table long and thick enough to entice every ant in the Middle Tennessee area. As miserable as the evening was, it taught me a valuable lesson. Carrying around rejection is literally like walking around carrying an open, smelly bag of garbage. It's unattractive, it's off-putting, and it permeates everything around you until no one can stand to be anywhere near you. We've all been rejected. We're all at least a little afraid of rejection. But choosing to tightly clench hands with that spirit of rejection and making it your lifelong companion will keep you from ever finding an actual companion. Who knows if I would have been attracted to this guy or wanted to spend more time with him had he not carried around his rejection like a badge of honor. But now, I'll never know. And I guarantee you no one else will ever know either, unless he is willing to make some drastic changes. I feel for him, I do. I know the sting of rejection, but at a certain point, you have to stop blaming the world around you for your misery and start looking within to see what you can do differently. Most of the time, it's as simple as just laying down the blame and the shame and taking responsibility for your own actions, feelings, and choices. By continuing to point the finger at everyone else for every little hurt, heartbreak, and denial you've received in life, you continue to invite more rejection into your life. Chapter 5. I had tickets to the Squirrel Nut Zippers and was new in town, so I didn't have anybody to go with. I went on Match.com to meet somebody. Met a woman with whom I exchanged emails for a couple of days, and we hit it off. Her profile didn't have a photo, which concerned me, but she said she was a teacher and didn't want any students finding it. Plus, she acted like I was vain for being so concerned about looks. I told her the band we were seeing was kind of hip and edgy. The audience would probably be dressed kind of rockabilly or punk. When I picked her up, she was wearing capris, a flannel shirt, and kids' tennis shoes. She looked like somebody's mom. I was so embarrassed to walk into the venue with her. Then during the show, she kept commenting on everybody's tattoos, and people were staring at us. I kept drinking, hoping the alcohol would make her more attractive. It didn't. There was a chance to hang out in the alley with the band after the show, but I told her I was sick and we needed to go. Lesson learned. If somebody can't provide a photo of themselves on a dating site, they probably aren't your type. Chapter 5. I had tickets to the Squirrel Nut Zippers and was new in town, so I didn't have anybody to go with. I went on Match.com to meet somebody. Met a woman with whom I exchanged emails for a couple of days, and we hit it off. Her profile didn't have a photo, which concerned me, but she said she was a teacher and didn't want any students finding it. Plus, she acted like I was vain for being so concerned about looks. I told her the band we were seeing was kind of hip and edgy. The audience would probably be dressed kind of rockabilly or punk. When I picked her up, she was wearing capris, a flannel shirt, and kids' tennis shoes. She looked like somebody's mom. I was so embarrassed to walk into the venue with her. Then during the show, she kept commenting on everybody's tattoos, and people were staring at us. I kept drinking, hoping the alcohol would make her more attractive. It didn't. There was a chance to hang out in the alley with the band after the show, but I told her I was sick and we needed to go. Lesson learned. If somebody can't provide a photo of themselves on a dating site, they probably aren't your type. Chapter 6. I once had a first date with a girl I met through Match. We had emailed, then talked on the phone and texted for a while before she arranged to meet me at a local coffee shop one night. I'm just shy of 5 feet 7 inches, which means almost all of my shoes have some sort of heel. Since she listed her height as 5 feet 5 inches, I knew wearing 3-inch heels would be unnecessary, so I settled for flat sandals with a short 1-inch heel so she would still be taller. She seemed standoffish when we met and wasn't an inch over 5 feet 5 inches, but I figured people lie about their height all the time online and just tried to make a little small talk to lighten things up. And girl, did she lighten up. After about 30 minutes of talking to her, I discovered that she is very smart and intelligent. We talked for about an hour. I felt very comfortable with her and she with me. As I was talking with her about height, she was a little embarrassed, but she tried to make me believe otherwise. We started talking about things that we used to chat about online. She described herself better, and I was really impressed with her. She was also attracted to me, which made me more happy and comfortable with her. She suggested that we go for a walk. I said yes, and we walked through the edge of the garden. That made me very happy. I fell in love with her. That night was a very special night for me. Chapter 7. Date night comprises of joy, many happy things like shared interests and feelings. When a couple are dating, they should have equal and similar passions and feelings joining them. And also there is enjoyment in taking long drives, walking on the beach, and wearing their choice of dresses. There is no limit of fun things to participate in. There are no elders' warnings and fears. A crazy and fantastic world would be created for their will and feelings. That is the world of people who have similar feelings and considerations. Chapter 8. This date was the craziest date I ever had. I met him on Date Portal. It was like a dream. We couldn't stop talking, laughing, or joking together. But then we realized that we live 6,000 kilometers apart from each other. So after weeks of having a wonderful time on Skype, I decided to go to India to visit him. How I decided that, I don't know. I booked a plane ticket, got a visa, and listened to my family and friends advising that it's very dangerous and that I will be kidnapped or killed. So maybe I was crazy, maybe not. But I went on that crazy date, and it was worth it, because now we are engaged and trying to do something very crazy in a week to remind us of how much we love each other. Chapter 9. One night, about 10 years ago, we went on a quadruple date night. My wife and I, along with 3 other couples. We went to TGI Fridays. I had won a $200 gift card through work, so I got everyone drunk on the gift card. We were ordering high-priced shots of whiskey and all sorts of beers. We all had appetizers and steaks and were there for almost 3 hours. We ended up taking a taxi to the movie theater down the street. We went and saw the Michael Moore movie Fahrenheit 9/11. Now that movie had a lot of controversy, and people were protesting the Bush administration when we were walking in. Being drunk, I was talking to them and they handed me pamphlets. It was actually a good time and they were being very respectful. So we saw the movie, and it was obviously more somber than I would have liked, but overall enjoyed the movie experience. After the show, we were walking out making jokes and laughing when one of the protesters walked up, talked to me again, and gave me a different pamphlet. I started walking, and a police officer grabbed my wrist. He asked why I was protesting and why I was resisting arrest. Out of fucking nowhere, this happened to me. I did not even see the cop. I stopped cold. I was fucking pissed. I just looked him in the eyes and asked, "Am I being detained? I have 6+ other people as witnesses proving I was not part of the protest group, and a movie stub in my wife's purse proving I was in the movie theater. Also, eyewitnesses that you just fucking put your dirty ass hands on me without probable cause. One of those guys hands me a pamphlet which I am allowed to take, and you pick on me? Are you serious right now? Again, if I am not being detained, get your hands off of me now and go bother the fuckers holding signs." He let me go and walked away. I then said to him, "Excuse me, officer, I'd like your name, badge number, and your reporting officer's name and number so I can call to make a formal complaint." He refused, got in his car, and drove off. So that's my story. I have met plenty of nice cops, but fuck that guy. Chapter 10. My best date was my first date with my husband. We went to a movie before dinner, which was fun because we could talk about the movie at dinner, no awkward silences. Funny enough, we ended up seeing The Lives of Others, an intense foreign film, which was basically the opposite of a romantic comedy, but it definitely got our hearts pounding. Then we went to dinner at a pretty restaurant in my neighborhood and got a glass of brandy as a nightcap. I don't think I'd ever had brandy before, and it was delicious and made us all warm and giggly. After, he walked me home. We kissed on the street, and people walking by whistled. It was a simple but lovely date, and I definitely recommend the whole movie then dinner thing. Chapter 11. Awesome experiences about my last date night. Nature and romance go together. From my friend who told me about the time he was invited by a photographer he'd just met to take pictures at a wedding in upstate Sydney for the weekend, to the epic first date I once had that involved meeting up in theme park and then heading out to King's, to an old-fashioned ice cream parlor, and then to the Louis Armstrong Museum, where we happened to see a mass band up from New Orleans, who walked through the house playing their instruments in homage to the mass legend. The best first dates don't have to end up with a relationship or even in bed. They stand on their own as awesome experiences that you can recount for years after. Then we went back to downtown Hillsview, and I bought a journal at a bookstore, which felt like a good omen, like the start of something new, and ate at Kokorako store, which is kind of gross and definitely not romantic. Then we kissed in the car, which should have happened while we were flying the kite, but neither of us was very smooth. While dating is supposed to be fun and relaxed, it's hard not to feel pressure when you're going out with someone that you genuinely like. I'm not a big fan of rules when it comes to matters of the heart, but proper first date etiquettes, like keeping your phone away or showing interest by asking engaging questions, are just a couple of things you need to do to help make your date a success. Not to mention keeping your alcohol intake in check because, like I said, nerves do tend to get the best of us. Thank you. Chapter 12. One particular night is very interesting and funny. It was my daughter's birthday. She was very happy on that day. After she cut the cake and was enjoying herself, suddenly my husband burst the colorful paper cracker. She was so scared, but a few minutes later, and she's sharing the cake with her friends. Chapter 13. Last year I was running for a train that only came once every 30 minutes. I was already late for school, so I had to get on it, even though I was getting off another train on a completely different platform. So there I was, running like a psycho, apologizing to everyone I pushed through while running, and as soon as I got to the front of the train door, a man was running out of the train and I embarrassingly collided with him and fell down. He just stood there surprised as if it was some kind of epic movie scene, and about 200 people turned to stare at me on the floor. The worst part of it was that 2 of my teachers were on that train and saw the whole episode, and I have to suffer through it as I travel from the same station every day. Chapter 14. I have had one good date night. I went out with a guy that I met on Facebook. He lived kinda out of the way, but he was nice. We went to a mall in Knoxville. We ate at a nice restaurant. It was a Chinese restaurant. It turned out that we both enjoyed Chinese. I ended up embarrassing myself because I dropped a chicken wing. LOL. After eating, we walked around the mall. Well, I wheeled myself because I am in a wheelchair. But anyways, it was fun. We decided to go to a movie after walking around and see a movie entitled Into the Storm. But we ended up making out the entire movie because we were literally the only 2 people in the theater at the time. We had a nice date. After the date, he took me home, and we ended up dating for a good while. But then we broke up because we just didn't see eye to eye. But we are still friends to this day. Chapter 15. In 1957, I was going to take my date to Disneyland for their special program for high school graduates. I even hired a taxi to take Michelle and I from our homes in Los Angeles all the way out to Anaheim. On the way, we started arguing about oranges. I insisted that all of Orange County consisted mostly of orange grove orchards when I was a child, and she said that was nuts. There had been lots of businesses in Orange County, not including Knott's Berry Farm. Well, we fought like this until I demanded that the taxi stop somewhere around the city of industry, and that the driver take Michelle back to her home in Los Angeles. I called another cab and went to Disneyland by myself. It was fun going on the rides alone while everyone else had a date to share them with. To complete my evening of freedom, I went to the Pasadena Rose Parade alone. And I loved it. Chapter 16. Before my 3rd son was born, my husband and I went out on our last date night for a while. We went to see American Sniper and had dinner at Longhorn Steakhouse. My husband doesn't usually drink, but he did that night, and he was a hoot. I drove, of course. I was pregnant and did not drink. He was joking with the waitress, as was I. He was silly and goofy. It was so much fun. It was cold out, too, but fun. We made fun of all the little teens that were out. We ended up getting a free dessert because we talked to the waitress so much. It was so much fun, we really enjoyed ourselves and had a funny time. The movie was absolutely great, too. We never get to go out either, so it meant even more. My oldest has special needs, so it was a nice stress relief. I love my kids, but it was nice to get to see my husband in a different view and watch him be a little silly. I really hope to get to do that again with him at some point soon. Chapter 17. When I was 16, a guy I was friends with invited me to come see a movie with him and our other friend. I agreed, but when the guy picked me up, I asked where our mutual friend was. He said that he couldn't come anymore. When we got to the movie theater, the friend was there seeing a different movie and had never even been invited to come with us. I then realized I had been tricked into going on my first date. Chapter 18. When I was 16, I took my future wife out on our first date to see A Nightmare on Elm Street. I was wearing a baseball cap, which she complained made me look like I was 12. Well, we got to the theater, and I was carded and turned away. We now own the movie and watch it together each October. Chapter 19. Cool Chick wanted to split the check with me. I kept insisting on paying for dinner, and she eventually agreed to let me pay, but when I gave the waiter my card, they said their ATM was broken and we had to pay in cash. I didn't have any cash, but my date did. Chapter 20. After taking my date to dinner, I offered to pay for the bill, but when I reached out for my wallet after the dinner, I found out it wasn't there. Someone had picked my pocket. I had to tell my date that I had been pickpocketed and was unable to meet my promise of catering for the bill. It was quite embarrassing to ask her to pay for our bill. Chapter 21. We went out for dinner, and as my date got into the car, he passed gas outside the vehicle thinking I wouldn't know. But the wind blew it into the car, so once we had the doors closed, it stank so bad in the car, we were trapped. Chapter 22. Nice survey, sir. I am from India. I want to share the experience of my first date with my girl. We planned to meet at 10 a.m. Here in India, we can't go dating by nighttime, so we went in the morning. After we met, we moved to the theater. I got the tickets, and we had corner seats. When the movie started, I touched her soft and silky hands and head. I just kissed her hand. She also kissed my hands and cheeks. Just like that, we were gone. After some time, we were just playing with our hands. I touched her boobs, and she suddenly got angry with me. I got out from there. I was panicked, but she called me to her room. When I got there, I got something special. I got everything. Chapter 23. My current boyfriend asked me to go get coffee as our first date, but I wasn't aware that it was a date at the time. We went to Starbucks, and I had a gift card anyway, so I told him I'd get his coffee. The barista, not knowing whether it was a date either, heard that and told him, "Wow, you've really chosen a great assistant." And it was horribly awkward because we were both painfully aware that she was trying to avoid the word date, but neither of us knew if we were actually calling it a date. So I got to be his assistant for the afternoon. Chapter 24. When I was in college, I went on my first real date with this guy. It was New Year. We went to a party with my friends to celebrate. I drank a lot and fell off a chair and then couldn't walk to the bathroom, so he had to walk me there. I get in there and my friend was in there puking. I sit on the toilet to pee, and apparently I start talking to my friend about the guy, and I kept saying, "I love Jack. I love him." My friend is like, No, you can't go out and say that to him. Do not repeat that." So I go back out into the room, I pass out on his shoulder, and when I woke up, I knew I was about to puke. So I ran down the stairs somehow, and it all came out, just as the ball was dropping, literally. I puked everywhere on his shoes. It was gross. He went upstairs to get my jacket and then found me passed out on the ground like 15 feet from where I puked. I puked probably 4 more times after that, needless to say. He still called me after that, and we have been together for 2 years, and till this day laugh about how scared he was to ever call me again because of how retarded I acted. Chapter 25. After I came out to my parents, I decided to bring my first official girlfriend over to the house. When we walked inside, my dad was at home. When he saw us come in, he began to get loud and even proceeded to introduce himself. He thought it was funny, and my girlfriend thought it eased the tension. I just felt like my parents were the most embarrassing ever. Chapter 26. Years ago, a friend of mine set me up with one of his secretaries. We went out. All went okay, even though I didn't think she was for me. We went back to her place to have a drink. When we got there was a guy in her bed sleeping. She starts shouting at him, "You know I had a date tonight," telling me that she broke up with him. I thought this was all a bit odd. The guy slowly got dressed and left. As he passed by me, we exchanged calm greetings, a quick hello. The lady apologized and seemed pretty embarrassed by all of it. Needless to say, I did not ever call her back. Chapter 27. The most embarrassing moment I had on a dating experience was 2 years ago. I was on the website Plenty of Fish, and I had been talking with a guy online for a few days. The guy told me he was 5 feet 6 inches. I am 5 feet 3 inches, so I was looking for a guy who was taller than me. We agreed to meet each other in a coffee shop. I was looking inside the cave to find the guy, and I finally see a guy who waves me over. I came to the table, and when he got up to give me a kiss on the cheek, I was taller than him. I didn't say anything that night because I didn't want to judge someone by that. 2 days after that, he invited me to a yoga class. During the class, we were starting to make some noise. Everyone made some because we had to breathe loudly. But his breath sounded exactly like a guy having sex, and everyone started to look at me really disgusting. 2 people left and made a complaint at the front desk because when we left, we got held by the manager who told us he was not welcome anymore. So finally, after that second date, I decided to finish everything up, and I was the bad person. He texted me sad things regarding the fact that I did not respect people, etc., and I finally blocked his phone number because it was really awkward. He was really weird. Chapter 28. Went out to a birthday dinner with a boyfriend. He was not a close friend, just someone who I happened to be going on a date with. During dinner, I got my period and asked him to take me home. After sitting in an hour of traffic, I ended up bleeding through my dress onto his white car seat. Most embarrassing and disgusting dating story. Chapter 29. I was out on a date where the guy was taking drama classes and really enjoyed singing. Well, he thought it would be nice to serenade me. Needless to say, his voice was not anything like Bono. All I could do was sit there with a straight face and try desperately not to laugh. After 5 minutes, I was ready to leave. Chapter 30. I'm on a first date with a person I'm really attracted to. We decide to see a very popular movie that had just come out. The theater was packed. My new shoes were tight, so I took them off for comfort. Then I accidentally kicked one shoe under the seat in front of me, and down it went, under many rows in front. My date went on a hunting expedition through many rows, disturbing a number of moviegoers until he found my errant shoe. My last date with Mr. Wonderful. Chapter 31. I took my girlfriend of a few weeks out for a hike. It was a trail I had learned about in a cross-country that fall. The season was over, and it was unseasonably warm that winter, so I thought we could go for a hike. It's hard to find places to be alone in high school. We climbed up to the overlook and were standing on a rock making out. We hadn't seen anybody on the entire hike, so we started to let things get more sensual. I had one hand up her shirt and another down her pants when a man came jogging by. It was my cross-country coach. He gave me a big smile and said, "Hi, my name," and then just kept on running. We ended our makeout session and hiked back down, embarrassed. The next time I saw my coach was at the athletic honors banquet, where I got an award for being a scholar athlete. Before we could even talk, I was accepting the award and having my picture taken with him. He said, "I can't believe I ran into you during your interlude. I think I showed you that place if I'm not mistaken." I didn't say anything because we were getting our picture taken. However, I have a copy of the photo, and we both have the largest, most awkward smiles on our faces in it. The relationship continued through the awkwardness and on to others, as high school romances often do. We have since gone our separate ways in life, but remain friends. Little stories. I was set up on a blind date, and it ended up being a guy from high school. We were making out while his parents weren't home, and his new German Shepherd puppy ate a hole in the couch. We were in a hotel, but I had to pay for each of her choices on demand. She enjoyed it, but it hurt me a lot. I was invited to a blind date on Halloween Eve and wasn't told it was a Halloween party. I was embarrassed that I didn't have a costume. This has been Finding Your Match, True Tales of Funny Dating Experiences, written by Leroy Vincent, narrated by Dan Carroll. Copyright 2017 by Leroy Vincent. Production copyright 2017 by Revival Waves of Glory Books and Publishing.